All right, here we are again and ready to go for another week. We're in the second half of the semester. You've made it halfway through. So, congratulations for your progress here and in all the rest of your courses. And we are going to get started. A couple things I want to talk about. Let's just say, first of all, I don't know the date yet. I'll get everyone together and let's plan somewhere probably during. Gosh, I hate to do it to you during finals week. We'll pick a week that it's not super bad for everybody who's taken finals and have a class, end of the class meeting where we can meet together and kind of go over, rehash the semester, talk about the pros and cons and the successes and failures of all of our missions throughout the semester. And that'll kind of be how we wrap things up. So let's be thinking about that as we look ahead in the next 8 weeks. Let's talk about last week's assignment. Again, I've been very flexible with the due dates. So if you haven't turned something in, go back and do it. Don't feel like you have to miss out. All right. So let's look at Pano 360 for last week's assignment. I'm going to send the link to the video that you see right now in the screen. This is a pretty good one. I want you to remember that when you do these Pano images, and that didn't do anything for you, but I'll send you the link anyways. When you do the Panos, if you do them in the Mavic Mini, I haven't checked, so hopefully this is how the other teams who've already turned in their assignments did them. You can go into the DJI Flight. I believe that an update has given those drones the opportunity to do the Panos. Remember, there's Mavic Mini 1, Mavic Mini 2, so if you don't find them on the ones, and you can tell the difference between the 1 and the 2, because Mavic Mini 1 has a black controller, and Mavic Mini 2 has the the RC1 gray controller. And it might have a few more features than the Mavic 1 has. I would think they are close enough that they all have the same stuff, but either way, go right ahead and check. Log on to the drone, go into DJI. You're not going to use Drone Deploy. Go into the DJI Fly app, go into the camera settings, and there should be a Pano setting. If there's not, watch this tutorial that I'll add to a link somewhere. Actually, let's put it, to make it easy, I'm going to go put it back in the Pano assignment. That way, if you haven't started, you'll find it when you get there. If you've already gone there, go back and pick it up and watch that video. I think you'll like. I like it. It's the right way to follow. It's a good process to follow. It's got some processing techniques. You can use it if it's a. I think he's got. Let's see down here. He's using a Photoshop, and I don't know what this PT GUI is, but it might work also in the PT GUI. Maybe in the GIMP might be able to blend those together. If you have problems on either one of these, we should be able to get access at the school if we have to Photoshop, or maybe hopefully you just started a trial. Do not pay for any programs. Most importantly, let's get those shots done. If you have to do them manually, then follow this video. All right. Let's do... Sorry about that. All right, sorry about that. Here we go. Now let's jump into what I want you to do for this new assignment. New assignment. Now, caution, 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 alert, 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 danger, danger, danger. Pay attention. This week, we are going to look at tower inspections, okay? All right, how to scan cell towers. Now, there's 2 towers that we see when we go out and about in town. There's towers that have guidelines, and there are towers that do not have guide wires or guidelines. Those guidelines are just the wires that go from the side of the structure, the tower, all the way to the ground to keep them from swaying in the wind. A lot of our cell towers, our smaller cell towers, can use those galvanized polygon posts that are set in concrete and they don't require guidelines. Those are a little bit cleaner to do because it's a little bit safer and we can use an automated flight pattern. For the ones with guide wires like we have at RSU, they're a little bit more difficult because we have to be very careful about those guide wires and guidelines. All right, first off, safety is number one. Staying away from other people, their safety, that's paramount, number one. Nobody needs to get in trouble. Nobody needs to argue. If you go somewhere and you go to try to fly this mission and you're having trouble, someone's confronting you, just leave. Let them know what you're doing. Say, sorry, didn't mean to disturb you. I'm flying for RSU as a student, and this is one of my assignments to inspect the cell tower. But if you want me to leave, I'm happy to leave. I went and looked around at a lot of the cell towers in Claremore, and many of them are kind of on private property, kind of off the road just a little bit. So I'm going to tell you this. Yes, you can go fly cell towers that have no guidelines. That would be great. You can fly towers that have guide wires. I'm going to show you here in a minute what you need to do. It's going to be a little bit different. Number one priority is be safe, and then really don't really piss anybody off. If somebody wants you to leave, just leave, because they may not understand what you're doing, and it may really freak them out. And then again, also, let's keep in mind to stay away from the equipment. Let's not get too close. Let's make sure whatever we're doing, we're flying in such a way that there's no way we can damage any of this property. That's really, really important. So you're going to have the choice. I'm going to ask you to go and film to do a cell tower video inspection and a cell tower still image inspection to be rendered as a 3D rendering. All right? So let me go through a couple of things. I'm going to give you this link. I'm not going to teach you everything here in this page. We're at the point now in these courses where I'm going to give you the data. I want you to go through and read up. This is stuff that I would just have to read to you. There's no need for me to read to you, okay? You need to go in here and study it, learn how to do it. I'm going to walk you through the important parts of it. If you need help, give me a call. So let's take an example of these two different ones. Particularly, I look at the one on the left, this, and it's up here, this Helix tower. This gives us the option to go in a circle because there's no guidelines. We're going to use this up and down pattern when we have guidelines or guide wires, okay? The biggest thing I want you to do is make sure that you're giving still image that includes a top-down look. This is a 90-degree look from the top. And do this for both your stills and your videos. So if you're making this video that you're going in a circle, once you've reached the top, then you should make that rotation tighter until you get directly over the top and stop. And that's a good place to turn off your camera. If you're giving these up and down still images so we can render a 3D rendering of the tower, you're going to want to get the top as well. So that top is a 90-degree top. And again, I want you to read through this stuff and it'll help make a little bit more sense. You can look at an image here that's being taken pictures of for the rendering process. And this is, let's look down here. It's a little bit better to show you how the angle kind of works. So that first mission is that video mission that we talked about. And you see, again, we're just kind of repeating what we've set up in the beginning. You're just making rotations around the tower. And I want you to make an additional turn and stop at the top. And when you do this flight, depending on your sun, you can take this at 0. You can take this at straight out with no tilt on your gimbal, or slightly down based off of if there's like a real lot of sun that's popping in your eyes and you really need it just to get the right clarity, you can take that angle down a little bit, but I'm looking for a 90 for those. Now here's our rendering. This is really important way to take a picture for the still images. Okay, The camera, and let's just put the camera at 40%. The camera's at 40%, and you're getting the same circular rotation all the way up, but your camera is at 40%. And again, you're stopping high enough so you see the top of this, and you're shooting. So if you can't get to the base of the tower because it's on private property, there's a fence, there's some electrical equipment, it's fine. Most of the inspection is up on the top. Get as low as you can safely, and then move your way all the way up the top till you get to the top, and make sure you get a good 360 degrees around where your camera angle is pointing at the top. So as you see right here, the camera, this is the focal point. These pieces out here become our overlaps. We've talked about overlap before. Remember, overlap is just two images that have a little bit of each other in those images. So make sure when you're looking at the camera view that you're getting that overlap. So when we put it in a stitching program, we're able to see it. Now, if you're going to go to or stay at RSU and do that tower, wonderful. No problem, but be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want the tower to get hurt. And then last place, I don't want the drone to get hurt. So you're using these up and down motions, and you'll have to take these images in between the guide wires, going up and down and working all the way around the structure, remembering to keep your angle so that you can get all the images. All right, let's go. I think I have one here. So now we're going to look at this image. This image is going to be once you've flown at 40 degrees from bottom all the way up to top, then you're going to want to come back and do that same rotation. It's not so important down here on the base of the tower where there's nothing attached to it, because the images are going to be good enough because there's no obstructions. It's going to be good enough to make a 3D rendering with the pass. It's mainly just the tower structure at the top that has all the antennas and different components that you're going to want to make a whip around those to make sure that you have good overlap. And you see in this image where he's got the whole thing. So one kind of worked for him. You're going to have to, one revolution worked for him. So you're just going to have to figure out what works best for you and your site and your tower. Okay. Do that for both the still images and the video. So you'll go the video, you'll do a video of it with the 40 degree down, or I take that back. You'll do a video with it with 90 degrees directly at it. And then when you come back and do a video, you'll do a video with the gimbal tilted up. So tilt the gimbal all the way up, come from underneath it, and get that up image that we could not have gotten. It's most important that you provide that for the 3D rendering so we can have all of the sides to create a 3D image from. All right, I think this one here is really where you can spend the most time, because these are manual image missions. And it goes through and it gives you kind of what I've already talked about with the gimbal settings, and it shows you how to go up and down around the guidelines. And so I'm really going to let you lean on this last piece here, but you see how it was really small, didn't have a whole lot of information. But this is really where we're going to be. We're going to be in the manual flight mode. And again, if you go with guided wires. Now, if you want to, it would be kind of cool. Remember that we have a maximum altitude of 400 feet. However, that 400 feet begins at the top of a structure. So if you have a structure like this tower, let's make this tower work here. If you have this tower, you have in a radius of 400 feet. So you come out this way, and watch, I'm coming from the base. I'm going to come out 400 feet. And you draw a circle all the way around that to the top. And then you go up 400 feet. That is your flight area. You cannot exceed 400 feet away from the center of the structure this way and up from the top of the structure 400 feet. I might not have said that right. Understand that you can fly. If this first camera is at 400 feet, you can fly 400 feet as far as you want in either direction. If you are going above the tower, which is already, we know, let's say this tower is 1,500 feet, you're already at 1,500 feet, you're authorized 400 feet, and your flight radius should not exceed 400 feet radius from the center of the tower at an altitude of 400 feet above ground level, okay? Now, if you want to go to something like, let's see if I can do this on the fly. You want to go to SkyVector? I think SkyVector is a good place to go. If you want to go to SkyVector, and it would be kind of cool if someone wanted to take a challenge. You don't have to take this challenge, but it would be kind of neat to see who could go the highest. So when you look at these maps, you could jump on these maps in our area, and you'll see these pieces right here. Okay? This is indicative of a tower, and that tower is at 1,294 feet. Okay, that's the altitude of that tower. So if you wanted to go 400 feet above that, you're approaching that 1,500 foot range, which is pretty high. I won't spend a super long time looking because it's kind of hard to find while I'm jumping on the fly. So here's Texas. That's what I said. It's kind of like a hit and miss. I got to hit these. Okay, there's Tulsa. Perfect. Let's pop in here. So let's look. If we want to look around Claremore. Well, that's too far out. There's Chelsea. Okay, here we go. So if you want to pull this up, all right, if you want to pull this up and look for the highest tower in the area, and you want to jump on Google Maps, find that tower, and make sure it's like sitting out in the middle of nowhere so no one's going to come think you're crazy. You know, there's a tower out here at 1,100 feet, 1,300 feet. You are more than welcome. And yes, this is a double tower, and encouraged if you want to try to see who can get the highest altitude. That would be kind of cool. Okay. Make sure that you are very careful, that you're flying where you're allowed to fly, and you need to take a look at these zones, okay? So we know here that the bottom of this ring is at 2,300 and the top is at 4,700 feet. So if you were to come to this tower, let's come to this tower here that's 991. You would be below this flight zone, and you probably wouldn't have a problem flying. Now, if you went up 500 feet, you're still below 2,300, so you're not going to have a problem with airspace and getting Lance to fly. You may have an issue, on the other hand, if you come into, say, for example, here we go. We have this tower that sits at this one's on outside of it. This one here sitting at 1,152 feet. Okay, this is 1,152 feet, but the controlled airspace is from the surface all the way up to 4,700 feet. So you're going to have to get Lance approval, and you see how close this is to the airport. You may have trouble doing that. They may not open it up for you right away. In this case, we would probably have to go to the FAA and request permission to say, hey, we're only flying up and around a tower. And they will give you the authorization to fly there, even though it's from the surface to 4,700 feet. My best hope for you would be to come out here where you're not going to have a controlled airspace. If we can do it out around here, then of course, once you get out of all these boundaries, any of these that are up here, especially if you guys already live out from that area, but try it out before try it early in the week so you have time to finish it. if you're going to go out there and hit them, there's a couple of and look, you can do this on Before You Fly app. You don't have to actually drive out to the location. Just tag this on Before You Fly and look at it and see, and then go ahead and put the date you want to fly and try to get permission. And it'll tell you whether or not you get permission to fly within an airspace, and put where you're going, how high you're going to, and you should be good to go. All right, that's on SkyVector, and this is where you can see the live charts, so you can always figure out what's going on. You're supposed to be getting familiar with these. This was kind of part of the flight operations last semester that we didn't get a whole lot of time to spend on, but these are the charts that you should become familiar with. SkyVector makes it easy because they are, with a mouse, you can just scroll and move and find out what the airspace is. And again, if you're trying to find out a location like this place here, I want to know where that tower is. It's at 1,132 feet in altitude. You're going to have to do a little bit of homework, because you're going to have to come back out and pick up these degrees, and you're going to have to learn how to read a map and fix it, because it's going to be kind of hard for you. But you could probably get close to an area if you laid Google Maps side by side. And I think there might be a way up here. I haven't done it before. You could throw in a satellite image. Let's see what happens if I throw a satellite image in there. It may not do anything. Oh, that's all weather. So not real sure. I haven't tried to see maybe you could overlay a map onto it, but either way, I think you can figure it out. If not, you can definitely look on, I think I've got a place. There's a place called, see if it's still here. I might have lost it. I was looking up a bunch of other tutorials, but I didn't like that one as well. There's another place that you can grab. You can just Google cell phone tower map, and 2 or 3 down, and you can get an interactive map that can help you find where all the cell towers are, and it tells you what kind of cell towers they are. If you're interested in hunting down something different than the one that's there at RSU. RSU is a good one. It's more challenging because it has those guide wires, and you can't really get that cylinder flight like you can with one without guide wires. So it's going to be up to you. You get a choice to do either one. Anywhere you go. All right, that's really it. Let's just kind of stop there and call that good. I'm hoping that this finds you well and the instructions are okay for you to get started. Please at least look at it early on this week so you have an idea of what you're doing. So if this video wasn't good enough, for the documentation that I'll leave in the course is not good enough, that you can call me and ask me for a little bit of clarification. All right, happy flying and be safe.